Let's add custom blocks to Minecraft with Fabric in 26.1. If you want to go deeper, the 26.x modding courses are linked down below. 30 plus hours covering complex block entities with fluid and energy handling, custom mobs, custom networking, and even custom biomes and dimensions. Everything you need for 26.x all in one place, linked down below in the description. Alright, my friends, I'm back and tell everyone more, and in this tutorial we're going to be adding custom blocks over here. Similar to the custom items, it is a similar process, although it will require two helper methods this time. I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but it is indeed the case. But not to worry, we're going to get through it, and you're going to, after this, basically figure out on how to add custom blocks. As per usual, all of the code and everything you might need for downloading will be in the description below, and let's see. In the tutorial package, we're going to make a new package called block. And inside there, we'll make the mod blocks class. There we go. And this is the one that we're going to start with. Now, as this is the blocks mod blocks class, we'll of course have a public static void register mod blocks right here. And this will once again call the tutorial mod.logger with an info over here that we're registering our mod blocks for. What exactly? The tutorial mod.mod_id. We don't necessarily need to call the logger over here, although I do like to do that just because otherwise it would be an empty method, and I personally don't like that too much. The method over here, the register mod blocks method, will be called inside of the tutorial mod on initialize method. So this is the mod blocks, mod block dot register mod blocks right here, and then we can add both of our helper methods. The first one is going to be the private static void, and that is the register block item method, which takes in a string name parameter and a block, making sure this is super important, making sure we choose net Minecraft world level block. You can see that it defaulted to COMJCraft. We do not want that block class. We want the one from net Minecraft world level block over here. Pressing tab to autocomplete it, and there we go. If you accidentally import the wrong one, right? So let's say, you accidentally import this, you can see that it now says over here in your imports COMJORBUS whatever. You just delete that and you click on this, Alt and Enter, and you make sure that you choose the net Minecraft world level block right there. And those are the only two parameters that the block item method needs. Now this helper method, we need this in order to actually register our block item, as the name suggests over here, of course. The idea is that while a block, when we register a block, we actually register what is set down in the world, right? So if you see cobblestone or you see stone and you mine that, that is the block that is registered, but the item associated with it, we have to do that basically manually, so to speak. So inside of the register block item method, we're going to call registry once again here, making sure we choose net Minecraft core. Very important. Do not choose Java RMI. You want to choose net Minecraft core over here. And then we do the register method, passing in built-in registries. So this is built-in registries.item. Then the second parameter, as you can see, actually already suggests this to us, the identifier from namespace and path. So simply hitting tab to autocomplete, where we'll pass into the from namespace and path method tutorial mod.modid, and the second parameter is the name. After the first closing parentheses, we then make a new block item. So very important, a new block item, where we pass in first parameter the block, and the second parameter new item.properties, and then here we want to call the use block description prefix. I'll explain that in a second. And then here the set ID method, where we're going to pass in a resource key.create registries.item, and then the second parameter here is once again an identifier from namespace and path with tutorial mod.modid and a name. There we go. As per usual, all of the code is available to you down below, so you can also double check it from there, maybe copy over the methods, as they are a little bit verbose over here. It just is the case. Similar to what we've seen in the mod items registration over here, where we had to call the set ID method for our item properties, the same thing happens right here, where we have to basically call the item properties over here as well. There is no other way to basically do this, and then have to basically set the ID, even though it's almost the exact same thing that we have right here. I still don't know why they're doing it like this, but it is fine. We are calling the set ID method, and then the use block description prefix basically means that when we're translating this, instead of using item.tutorialmod.flowride_block, we're going to be using block.tutorialmod that fluoride block in a second. So that's going to be this. That means what the prefix here is. And then we want to register the block, which is a private static block here in this case, and this is the register block method. This takes in as a parameter the string name and then a function of the first type here being block behavior.properties, and then the second one being a block over here. We're going to call this the function, and there we go. So that is the register block method. The first line here is going to be a block. We're going to call this the to register. The to register, that's correct, equal to function.apply, where we'll pass in block behavior.properties.of. Then here also calling the setID method, passing in the resource key, this time with registries.block in this case, and the second parameter being identifier from namespace and path with our mod ID and then the name right here, and we end this line with a semicolon. So here we actually, well, basically make the block already via the block behavior properties, and then we call the register block item method, passing in the name as well as the to register, and then we are going to return registry.register with the built-in registries of the block right here, passing in the identifier from namespace and path, tutorial mod.modID, passing in the name, and after the first closing parenthesis, we pass in the to register, and there we have it. That is going to basically apply the block behavior properties that we're giving with this function over here. It's going to set the ID for the block as well, because we need to do that too. Then we are registering the block item associated with this block, and then we're registering our block. So that's pretty much the similar way that we're doing it in the mod items, just with two different steps, because we first need to register our block as well, and then also the block item associated with that. But with this done, well, now we can actually register our block finally. So this is going to be a public static final block, as you can imagine over here. This is the fluoride underscore block equal to the register block method that we've just created. Name over here is fluoride underscore block. And then this is the properties, and you can see it suggests the lambda expression for us. So we can do properties and then a new block that we're creating right here, passing in the properties, and then we can give it all sorts of different properties over here. So let's say, for example, the strength is going to be how long it takes to mine this. Then the requires correct tool for drops is what we're going to call. I'm going to talk about that in a second. It's a very important thing to note. So, you know, pay close attention over here, because this is actually very important. We also will make a sound type. Let's just do amethyst. I think that's totally fine. And theoretically, like I said, you could add all sorts of different things over here. Highly recommended to check those out as well. Or you can press the Shift key twice, look at the blocks class, so blocks, then include non-project items, and take a look at the blocks right here. Well, or not, maybe when I get an error, there we go. So we're here. So here are all of the blocks from vanilla. You might have this blue line. If you do have the blue line, you can always go to Gradle and double click the GenSources right here. So let's just do that. Let's just let this run through for a second. So just be patient. This might take like a minute or so. And then after that is done. Wow, only 8 seconds. That's crazy. You can choose the sources, and then you can see we have one of them that is called sources. We open that, and then in theory, it should reload. It should no longer have the blue line, and you can even see that we now see way more stuff. So you can see, for example, the dark oak sapling over here and what its behavior, block behavior properties are. Highly recommended to check that out if you are interested in a little bit more of this. Now, when it comes to the requires correct tool for drops and the blocks itself, very important to note, any block we're adding right now will not drop anything, and it is not going to be mineable with anything. First of all, the requires correct tool for drop method right here, that method basically means that we have to define what type of tool this particular block can be mined with. Now, and obviously in this case, I want my fluoride block to only be mineable with a pickaxe. Now, that is a thing we'll define in the next tutorial, because even if we were to say, okay, well, then I just remove this and now I can mine it and it's going to drop itself. No, it's still not going to drop itself, because for that we need still a loot table, and that's what we're going to do in the next tutorial. So I just want to reiterate one more time. Any block we're adding right now is not going to drop itself. It doesn't matter with what tool. It doesn't matter if you call this method. I do recommend you still add this method over here to the block properties, because otherwise, you know, it just makes sense in this case. So there we go. Now that the block has been added, we can add it to our creative mode tab right here. So there's going to be output.accept and then mod blocks dot just have them write this correctly, fluoride block right here, and we'll do the same thing actually inside of the item stack so that the fluoride block is going to be the icon for our block tag here in this case. Well, and then we get to Datagen. Oh boy, is this going to be complicated? No, not at all. Inside of the generate block state method, we will call block model generators that create trivial cube, where we pass in mod blocks that fluoride block, and that's it. That's going to generate us our 3 different JSON files. We'll take a look at that in a second when we actually have added everything else. And with everything else, of course, mean that translation, why I already teased that, it uses the block prefix. So this is going to be the fluoride underscore block. The name here, obviously, once again, the same name as this one right here. And this is going to be a block of fluoride as its translation here. And then a texture. The texture goes under tutorial mode textures, and then a new directory called block in this case. And right there, I'm going to have the fluoride underscore block PNG, of course, also available to you down below for download. And those are actually all of the steps, like right now. We're not done quite just yet, because of course, first of all, we want to run the Datagen to get the JSON files generated. These are going to be 3 of them. So it's going to be a block states, an items, and a block model JSON file. So let's take a look at those so you can see. First one is the block state. So what is this craziness? The idea is as follows. Your blocks can have different block state properties. This could be, for example, an age property for a crop, or it could be, you know, an on and off for a redstone property, or a like an on or off is actually a pretty good one. That lit is actually what it's called. So a lit and an unlit property, for example, for the redstone lamp. And depending on the properties, you can have different variants of models. So it points to a different model over here. So that is basically how that works. So for example, if you have the furnace, let's just use the furnace. The furnace, for example, changes its texture. If you have something burning in there, then it, you know, adds a little bit of a burning thing like at the bottom of the furnace. So for example, that would be one idea here in this case. Generally speaking though, a normal block just has a normal variance that it points to one block model file, which is this one, models block fluoride underscore block. That similarly with the parent of cube all simply is going to apply this texture over here on all sides of the cube. And the texture here once again is found under tutorial mod, textures in the block folder, and in the and then looking for the fluoride underscore block.png. And that's how the block model JSON file sets itself together, so to speak. And then finally the items, similar right here as well. For a normal block, like 90% of all blocks will simply have an items JSON file that just points to the block model JSON file. It's simple as that, and that is basically the 3 JSON files done. And with that done, let's jump into the game and see if it works. Alright, fans, back in Minecraft, and look at that, the block of fluoride has been added, and absolutely fantastic. It even does the correct sounds that we've defined, in this case the amethyst sounds. I think that works really well for the way that it looks like. I mean, it almost is like half fluoride already, right? But I just love this freaking block. But as per usual, not one is none, so oh, come on. Let's add a couple more. Adding a couple more blocks is now actually very much trivial. So let's say we simply select this and press the Control D for the raw underscore fluoride block, and the same thing here, raw underscore fluoride block. Maybe we change the property of the destroy time. Maybe we're going to remove the amethyst over here. You can, of course, play around with this in whatever way you would like. We want to add it to the creative mode tab. Once again, I simply hit the Control D over here, then choose raw fluoride. So I start typing in the new thing. I just select it by double clicking on it. And I do the same thing here, right? Control D to duplicate the line. I double click on it. I start typing the new name of the block. Boom. And there we have it. The same thing happens in the translation. So this is the raw underscore fluoride block. Now, is this actually block of raw fluoride? Is this how it would get translated? I mean, I guess so. And then, of course, we do still need to get the texture over here. That is the raw fluoride block. And just like that, we would run Datagen again. It would generate us the 3 JSON files that we need. And see for the raw fluoride block. And just like that, we have the second block added over here. Absolutely freaking fantastic. But once again, I mean, you know, 2 is too few. So I think we do need some ores, and then I'm going to leave you with sort of, you know, a couple more blocks that you can add on your own time if you so choose to. The idea is as follows. We're going to add 2 ores. That is going to be the normal fluorite ore and the deep slate ore. And then I will also give you 2 other textures, which is the end and the nether ore, which in theory you could add on your own time. Or if you just go to the description below, that's going to have the GitHub repository and all of those in there. I'm going to once again duplicate this block, and this is going to be the fluorite ore. Let's just actually change the name like this, fluorite underscore ore. That's going to be, there we go. And if you duplicate anything, always double check the name. Listen, I've duplicated a lot of things, and I forgot to change the name very often. So do not worry about that at all. Now, the ores are actually a drop experience block in this case, because they drop experience. The first parameter of which is a uniform int.of, and then here we define how much experience is going to drop in this case. Pretty interesting indeed. And then for the destroy time, I think 3 is actually fine. And then here we're going to change the sound type to let's do stone. Yes, I think that is very fair, because obviously fluorite ore is stone. However, the fluorite underscore deep slate underscore ore, well, that one is quite different. And that is going to be, well, let's first of all add a little bit of this. Then maybe we add, you know, increase the destroy time. And then here, this is for the deep slate sounds. Generally speaking, when it comes to any of the properties, obviously they're so easily changeable that, and when it comes to the numbers anyway, this is a part where you have to also test things out. Hey, is this too long? Is this, you know, too fast? Whatever you might want to double check here, because the numbers are so easily changed. I often just have sort of random numbers thrown in. You can always change them for your own mod. That's like a thing that is just, it should be fairly straightforward and fairly easy. So adding new blocks right now, if they're just sort of, you know, not too complicated, this shouldn't be too crazy. So if I have the end and the nether ore textures added for download down below, you should be able to add those. Let's go through over here with the normal ore and then the deep slate ore right here, adding those to the creative mode tab. Then going here, once again, I just pressed Control D over here twice. I type in ore. I make sure to choose the correct new block right here, right? I just double click, change the name. At some point, you just get into some sort of rhythm, right? But this is all a thing where it just takes some time. And then all of a sudden you are, I mean, I don't want to say a master overnight, because that's not the case. You know, to get what is it? It takes 10 years to become an overnight success. A deep sleep ore? Oh, someone is tired, I guess. Deep slate ore, there we go. And then this is going to be the fluorite ore right here and the fluorite deep slate ore. But as I was saying, so, you know, it takes 10 years to make an overnight success, and the same thing goes on with things like, you know, how can you program so fast? You know, how do you know all of these things? It's just a matter of doing it over and over and over and over again, and there we go. We have the 4 different textures over here, the deep slate and the ore, as well as the end and the nether ore. Like I said, the end and the nether ore, you can basically try to add those once the video is finished. Try to add those yourself. You know, there's, like I said, in the description below, there's going to be the GitHub repository, so you can simply also copy it over if you so choose to. But I do recommend you try it. You have basically you have this already set up over here. You can see almost the solution one-to-one. I do recommend you try this out. And there we go. Now, of course, we, as always, have to run the Datagen again, because we've added new stuff to Datagen. So we need to rerun this to generate the other 6 JSON files. And just like that, let's run the game again and see if it works. All right, we're back over here, and we can see the fluorite ore and the fluorite deep slate ore both added right here. Absolutely freaking fantastic. I mean, it just can't be that easy, but I'm gonna be real. I think that they are looking for freaking sick over here. And there we have it. We got ourselves 4 blocks. Like I said, you can add a 5th and 6th one if you so choose to. Otherwise, you can also copy them over. We will be using them later in this series. But that is custom blocks added to Minecraft. Awesome. As always, all of the code is available to you down below, but that's going to be it for this tutorial right here. Hope you found this useful and you learned something new, and I'll see you all in the next tutorial when we add the block drops. Until then, so yeah.